Jack, yes or no question. Is Rollchains Celestia alignment BS?
No, it's not. It's something else
No.
entirely.
Rollchains, a project that mixes rollups with standard Cosmos chains, but is it legit? Today we're going to talk with Reece and Jack from Strangelove and Rollchains. We talk around the tooling of the Cosmos SDK, the two new modules that they built, the TIA blob module and Enshrined IBC, and then we talk about the day-to-day struggles of dealing with the Cosmos SDK and its tech debt. So let's get to it. Okay, so before, what is Rollchain? Why Rollchain?
It's really hard to spin up a Cosmos chain right now, and there's a lot of excellent work out there in the open source. A lot of teams either pay some integrator or spend months and months working to put together all of these different libraries before they launch their chain, and they spend a ton of time not working on their application and worrying about a bunch of things where there's a lot of other knowledge out there. So I think, why Rollchains? Because it's really hard to do this. And, the team here at Rollchains was at Strangelove prior, we've done this a bunch of times. And what we're doing is we're taking that knowledge, putting it into a series of software artifacts, and working with teams to help make that easier to spin up your own Cosmos chain.
So how does Rollchains help you spin up your own Cosmos chain?
Reece might have some thoughts on that, and then I can kind of tag team in.
Yeah, so one of the biggest headaches for a new developer is just learning how to set up a Cosmos chain. You have to know where to go find resources at. You move that over, it doesn't have the features you want. You have to go search around, find those features. They're not implemented correctly. You try to implement it, it doesn't work. And then the headache of how do you test that, testing features that don't work, and that entire headache where someone can't just come into the ecosystem and build up a chain and begin to build out their features from there. And so we solve that with a single binary. It has everything compiled within it. And then from there, it's going to automatically allow you to select what features you want. We do all of the backend heavy lifting for you. And then you have a great template to build off to start your chain with any custom logic you want. You can also launch that directly the day of and just have a chain launch and then begin to iterate on that as you want to. And so that's how we get to that faster to production ready chain. And then you build off from there.
And so what are these features exactly?
Yeah, so we have multiple consensus engines. So you can say proof of stake, proof of authority, or if you want to be an interchain secured via the Cosmos Hub or say Ethos or something along that line. So you can select which one of those. And then there's other modules that are automatically configured. Token Factory, global fees. There is CosmWasm. If you want to use Ignite, we allow you to also have Ignite. And so we have multiple modules there. IBC rate limiting from Stride. And as more features and modules come out, things like the OHO Oracle, will implement those in as well natively. You just select that in an easy UI selector, and then everything's generated for you in a matter of seconds.
Yeah. And, because in Cosmos, there's a lot of coding to do the imports, as opposed to you just grab a smart contract and go deploy it and you interact with it. It's less native for developers to learn how to do this. And if we can give them a head start, it saves months and months of time, honestly. And I think there's a lot of value in that.
And so did you guys pivot? I thought Rollchains was you guys send a traditional Cosmos SDK chain DA to Celestia. Is that correct? Or you guys?
Yeah, so there is a module that we've built that does that. It's called the TIA blob module. You can go check it out on GitHub, Rollchains/TIA blob. We worked with the Celestia team to bring this out, but we do believe that adding Celestia DA to a Cosmos chain adds a number of benefits. Third-party audit log. One of the modules that we've also developed is the POA module. And if you're going to be running a POA set, having that third-party audit log adds a lot of security. There's also a lot of benefits coming for projects that use Celestia DA, whether it's additional security for IBC via using the data availability sampling to help provide additional security for the light client connection, or other features coming up like indexers. And we want Cosmos chains to be able to take advantage of that too.
So how did you guys make the name Rollchains? Is it roll out your own blockchain with these tools, or is it in between a rollup and its own chain, roll chain.
Yes. It's more the second one. It's kind of in between a rollup and a chain.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so my question is that, so is the TIA blob, is it the main focus of roll chains, or is it just more general tooling?
It's just more of a general tooling set and other modules that we're building. We also have one that we're going to be announcing soon called the Enshrined Relayer module. This takes a lot of the relayer libraries and bundles them into the validator binary and allows a validator set to enshrine IBC connections and force the validators to make those transactions and stuff them into the blocks. And, there's a bunch of things that enables, and that's clearly a nice to have for all the kind of interchain security or partial set security chains. Yeah.
So let's get into the TIA blob module. So did Reece build that, or who built that exactly?
I did not build that. The builder of that, the main designer, was Andrew, our CTO at Rollchains, and then he's had extra assistance from Steve, who built the WASM 08 light client in the past. He's also helping with that to bring light client support and bring that to market.
And so you guys said that Rollchains was a part of Strangelove, but then there's a separation or its own separate team.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, we're just spinning out the Rollchains team into a separate entity.
Why would you guys do that exactly? Or what's the overall vision for Rollchains?
Yeah, I think that on the whole, if you look at healthy open source communities, there's companies that are able to sort of like sustainably work with a large number of projects and contribute back to the core software. And right now, basically all of the core development is funded by the Interchain Foundation. And there's no one really, there's a lot of other work going on in the ecosystem, but there's no companies that are sort of dedicated to building and sustaining the core stack and helping drive it forward. I've been doing that work for years. We've been doing that at Strangelove for a very long time, but we think that there needs to be a company that's kind of solely dedicated to that. That's all they do.
And so there's like a whole host and tools, a list of modules for Rollchains. Is that right?
Yep.
So
Reece,
can we just go down the list and explain each one?
Yeah, for sure. So we've got, Reece will go run through the list, but we've got, we're continuing to integrate some. So if there's some modules that you know about that are not on this list, please let us know. We develop stuff, but we also just bundle together what's best out there in the open source. So if you're starting a chain with Spawn, Reece, you can get...
Yeah, so Token Factory, this is where you're able to create your own tokens. I also have modified it slightly from the Osmosis spec while still following it. So you're able to interop with Osmosis with your smart contracts. DAO currently does this. And you can also add pseudo minting, where you can create any tokens that you want at runtime versus having to do it at Genesis. This is great for new chains. There's global fee. This allows for governance, so that way that either a proof of authority admin for a permission chain or a permissionless chain can have governance maintain what are the fees of this chain. Currently, every single validator within a Cosmos set is able to set any fee that they want. And if a chain wants to have specific minimum fees, this is a great way to do that. We use packet forward by default as well, so that way that packets can come into the network and go right back out of the network, as we've seen, to help increase UX, as we've seen with IBC.fun. We have IBC rate limit. This was originally built by the Osmosis team. It was then brought into a less CosmWasm focus by the Strike team. We've integrated that as well. We have CosmWasm. We have the WASM Lite client, which helps connect Cosmos chains to Polkadot, as seen by Composable. And we have Ignite CLI. A couple other things that we have in the to-do are Skip's Skip's block SDK, async ICQ, IBC hooks, Larry's account abstraction, the OHO Oracle, Osmosis's GAM module. So all of these are provided by default, and you're just able to select via an easy UI, what do I want to use, what do I not want to use? And we'll of course have the Enshrined IBC relayer as well as the TIA blob in the future too.
So what was the process before whenever you had to add a module versus now with Rollchains?
Yep. So you would go find a repository that, whether that be the CosmWasm instance of their SIM app. You copy that over. You have to go find and replace all instances of their namespace that says like wasmd to like I want Reece, for example. And you have to go through that. You have to upgrade your dependencies to get to the latest version that you want to. Then you have to go out and find where those other modules are. They're normally not going to be in the version that you need. So they're going to be on like SDK 47 whenever you need SDK version 50. That's a massive upgrade. So you have to go over there. You have to go find how to import that. You import it into your app. That's going to take a good developer at minimum 20 minutes. And that doesn't even include testing. So now you have to add testing. That's another 2 to 3 hours. You've added one module currently, and you still have another multiple modules you want to add. And those increase complexity as you get up into like custom virtual machines like Cosmos. So we're talking for a new chain to get set up. You're a good developer that has done it a lot. It is going to take at least 3 to 4 days to get a base template. And that's a lot of issues. There's a lot of GitHub CI doesn't connect and your testing doesn't work. And we've removed all of that headache. And now it's down to, if you really rush, you can get it in 30 seconds. A brand new chain fully configured for you, pushed up to GitHub. CI is running. CI is like verifying that everything is set up properly via test, and you're good to go. And so it's a massive improvement in UX and verification and testing for chains.
My question is like, why is that exactly? Like with JavaScript, I just like type npm and then like the package installs. Why in Go, why is it so complicated? There's so much boilerplate and compatibility issues.
So yeah, we're doing something similar with how Spawn is, where it's almost kind of like an npm install, where you just specify what module you want, and then we pull that into your package. No one's built that out yet. There's so much great tech in Cosmos, but we needed a team, that being Rollchains, to now integrate all of those great tech from around Cosmos as well as internally into a seamless package, which is a great user experience. And so that's what we're bringing to the table for everyone.
So it's like Rollup as a service, but like a standard Cosmos chain, essentially.
Yeah, I think the big difference, like if you look at the Rollup as a service offerings, like what are they actually offering? You know, it's kind of, hey, we'll run your computer for you. This is like a single node. It, you know, posts data to this other thing. You're joining our system. And what we're offering with Rollchains is the full flexibility and sovereignty of running your own Cosmos chain with much lower cost of ownership and the ability to go find some help, support, and additional features for your chain over time. And those are really fundamentally very different things.
Okay, so I want to deploy a chain. I like go through the list. I select all the modules I want. And then unlike Rollup as a service where like someone handles all the DA and the sequencing, like how do you find validators, or like how does that process exactly work? I know there's like proof of authority and then proof of stake and then blob TIA, right? Or
yeah, so it really depends on, So it depends on how you want to launch your chain. We also work closely with the Ethos folks too. So if you want to rent security from Ethereum, or you want to go launch on Saga or the Cosmos Hub via Interchain security, you can do that. So what we offer is flexibility first and foremost. If you want to go form your own validator set, we've got deep connections with a large number of validators. We're happy to make those intros and provide standard pricing for chains that are interested in that.
Okay, nice. So
I'll add on, there's another option where you could actually launch your chain just as yourself with a single validator, and then you go contact validators to then connect afterwards to your network via the peer-to-peer, and then set up your network that way. So you can bootstrap. Ideally, you would do it with multiple validators in the set, a minimum of 4, and you start it from there. But you could also have a foundation node and go that way, where you're testing, you like this network, you continue on with it. Validators connect and continue to grow that network in security and validation.
And so let's get into you guys had 2 new modules that you guys were developing, right? The TIA blob and then the Enshrined IBC, is that right? Are there any other ones?
Yes.
Or just those 2 for right now?
We've got some other stuff cooking right now, but nothing we're ready to announce.
Okay, so let's go through TIA blob. So how does the module actually work in the background?
Yeah, so there's a few different pieces to it. One piece is this thing that allows the validator set to create an interchain account controlled by the validator set over on Celestia. And then that interchain account fee grants keys that are controlled by all of the validators. In this way, the chain only has one account that's paying for all the blob fees over on TIA. And you can have different strategies to help keep that full, including automated ones. So just a single account over on Celestia that allows those validators to pay fees. And then the other part of it is something that says, hey, you're proposing this block, you need to go post this block over to Celestia, and then we're keeping that Celestia Lite client over on the side of the roll chain up to date. And in that way, we can prove whether or not the validator that proposed the block ends up submitting it. And there's optional, punishments, i.e. slashing or jailing. In the event that they don't, you can turn that off, though, depending on how you want to run the module.
Okay, so you guys have the ICA account that's owned by all the validators. It then pays Celestia and TIA. And then you guys do you guys use ABCI for, how does the rest of the blob TIA work?
Yeah, so we use prepare proposal. So that is an ABCI++ method to do the data posting, like as the proposer is proposing the block. That's how we do it.
Mm-hmm. And then you guys also sample Celestia, is that correct?
Yeah. We've got that each of the validators runs the data availability sampling like client.
And so what are the benefits of having...
And there's more information about this. Like, we do have this open source, and you can go check it out. It's Rollchains/TIA blob, and I'll just post it right here in this chat right here. There we go. No, don't want that. I don't want to create a new... There we go. Okay,
nice.
Here is the link there. Reece beat me to it. There we go.
And so what are the benefits? Because like you have your own DA network, like all the validators in the standard Cosmos SDK chain already do this. So then why you're doing it twice?
That's a good question. If you only have a single validator set, you're relying on that validator set for everything, and they are the source of truth. If you have an independent audit log of the data that's produced by that validator set, it provides additional security and the ability to recover the network from a particular checkpoint if outside parties decide to do that. There's a number of reasons you would potentially want that.
To determine the validity of these transactions, like you still have to download all of them because it's not like a ZK rollup. And so
yes.
How much more security do you get? Is it like, is there any measurable, quantifiable, is the minimum security like the chain itself, or is it all the way up to Celestia? Like, how much more security?
I think that like in the future, these will be ZK proofs of the blocks. We're already working with the Succinct team to do SP1 proving of the execution. But again, those are sort of like a little bit further out features. How much additional security do you get? It's kind of slightly amorphous, how much additional security does a rollup get out of posting to Celestia? It's roughly the same as a POA set gets from posting to Celestia. And if you look at a lot of the rollups now, you are trusting that single key that operates that node not to rug the system and walk away with all the IBC funds. So I think that, you get all of the best of what you get as a rollup posting data in some ways, but also the security of a validator set for settlement.
Reece, is there anything else you wanted to add? I know there was additional, you guys said IBC stuff with the sampling or something like that.
Yeah, so the nodes will be able to sync directly from Celestia and pull those blocks down. So you also get to share the infrastructure of Celestia, where you're going to be able to not only verify from within your own peer-to-peer network, but also that external peer-to-peer network. And so now you really do get the security of both, because you're really trusting that other set, and you can verify that the node does not have an app hash or crashes due to some non-deterministic behavior, because like data was changed. And this is extremely great for smaller sets where we can actually reduce the size of validator sets needed for security, because you now have another validator set that's also indirectly verifying for you for a very small cost of the transaction fees to Celestia. And so there's great benefit there of sharing infrastructure and reducing current Cosmos validator sets, which is perfect for proof of authority chains, especially where you want a very small set. You want to be able to move rapidly, move fast, and this helps you get to that area, which is great for enterprise.
So all the chain, is it state or data? Or just transaction data, right?
It's the block data. So there is some extra data that is not purely transactions that is also uploaded there to do the verification, but it's mainly just the data itself, not state.
So all that data is being uploaded to Celestia. How much does it cost? Because it's for every single block, right? I would assume it's not a lot, but can you give me some numbers?
Yeah.
Is it $100 every month or like 5 cents, or tell me?
It depends on the number of transactions you're doing. In terms of like empty blocks, you're paying roughly, I think, $50 to $100 a month in current USD values of TIA. And I think that was at a higher TIA price than what it is at today. So it's actually lower than that. If you're filling up blocks, it's relative to how many you're filling up. I believe the estimate was a couple $100 a month, which for the amount of security and infrastructure that you're getting for posting up this data, it's relatively cheap versus needing to run your own nodes, pay for other members, validator, etc. And Celestia is able to help offload some of that cost due to all the providers there that are already currently working on the chain.
And so
ensuring that with other networks.
And so I just want to run through the scenario. So like if there's a proof of authority network and then like a small proof of stake network, and let's say let's just go through these two scenarios. Like I don't know, the proof of authority network goes bad and they start pushing incorrect transactions, and same thing with the proof of stake network. How much more would Rollchains really help with that?
Yes, it would instantly halt the network due to values being differently from what was on Celestia versus being on the proof of authority chain. You could configure this to continue to run. That way you have liveness, but you would need to figure out a rollback scenario. But for the moment, it would stop your network, assuming you configured it to do that way, and then that way that you can verify that data. What is the correct path? Okay, we need to do a hard fork here to correct that path with a new validator set or something along those lines to verify the data and prove out the way that it should have gone.
Okay, and then is there anything else before we go on to the Enshrined IBC?
I think we're good.
I think that covers it all, yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And so with Enshrined IBC, typically the relayers, they're the ones who they're just like completely separate entities who like carry these packets from chain to chain. So why? And here's the thing: the relayers are like clients, so they can't really like mess with your money or anything like that. So why would you want to enshrine IBC?
So you already have the validators running software. When you have the relayers, it's a separate potentially entity or set of entities that need to run this thing. That's an additional set of things that you as a chain need to coordinate in order to keep your services live. If you only need a few IBC connections as a chain, say to a decentralized exchange and maybe a stable coin or a few other things, you can just have the validators take care of that as a part of normally doing business. And there's a set of applications, especially interchain security, where your chain needs to keep a application open over IBC in order for your chain to sort of like do anything. And forcing that onto the validators as opposed to having to coordinate third-party service providers. While there is often a lot of overlap, it is still a different set of conversations. When you go to a validator and you say, hey, do you want to validate? They're like, great. And that means one thing. And then you have to go back to those folks and you say, hey, can we get a contract for you to do relaying? And you have to like bring in a couple backups. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of reasons why you might want to do this, and the software allows for it. And it's been an often requested feature.
Yeah. Wasn't Jack, weren't you like the head of product for IBC whenever it launched?
I was.
That's nice. So you had decided to like launch without any sort of fee mechanism for relayers, and then like sort of the idea was that like if a validator wanted to like stick out and like say we support relaying, then like you might delegate to them. So why would you want to like
my thesis my thesis at the time was there's a lot of parties that validate on multiple chains, and there's a lot of applications that make money that will pay for these relayer fees in order to keep their applications available. The whole idea of validators doing it as a way to differentiate is something that like people kind of came up with organically. But the fact is, IBC is the largest bridge by volume in the world by multiple times, has been for a lot of years. And that system has worked very, very well in a lot of cases to provide what is a drastically better user experience than other bridges.
Another question is that, so you had like the special light client ability, but then isn't that sort of like wasting sort of this like cool light client bridge stuff?
Yeah. What about light client bridge stuff?
No, like isn't it sort of wasting sort of like this cool feature that IBC had? Or I guess you're still using light clients, but like now you're forcing the validators to then relay the packets forward.
I think that for large chains where you want to have a lot of connections, and you can think of Osmosis or many other Cosmos chains that are this way, the current model makes a lot of sense. And like we built the Cosmos Hub, like IBC had this concept of like hubs and this idea that there would be network topology that would develop, so we built for that first. For smaller chains that only need a couple of connections, that's not really a desirable property. You would want to have your chain kind of manage that automatically in most cases. And we don't see any reason why we shouldn't allow folks to do that if they want. It adds additional complexity. It works alongside the existing system. You can even run relayers across those exact same channels and still run this in parallel. So it is like backwards and forwards compatible with the existing system in an interesting way.
Are you worried that you're throwing these responsibilities onto validators and like validators are going to get mad because there's like another thing they have to like do? And then another question is that can you have only specific channels be enshrined and some not be enshrined? So maybe the one for like, the hub for slashing an ICS chain, you probably want to be enshrined, but like other random IBC channels, they just get normal relayers.
Yep. And that's like, that's how it works.
Oh, okay. So it's not
for things that require a lot more redundancy and security, like and uptime, assurances and guarantees. You can use the sort of like natural carrots and sticks of a validator set to help provide that.
And the validators don't have to run any extra software. They only run their single node just as you would run on any other standard Cosmos network. It's just automatically built in. So the application developer is taking on the headache of integrating it. What specific other features do they want? Let's improve that through governance, allow this channel, etc. Fees can automatically be minted to the account because you're as the chain. So now you actually don't have to deal with paying for fees on your chain side because you just could mint those if you chose to through a configuration to have that automatically done. So it's a lot less headache. It removes a couple of small issues that are currently with relayer funding, and it's just native. So validators don't even have to know that they're running that. It just happens.
Yeah, because there's this thing, because I thought like if you push the responsibility of relaying to the validators and you enshrine it, like the validators are going to get mad because they have to pay for the relaying. Is that, how much was the relaying did you have to pay previously for just light clients and non-enshrined?
So, I think, how much does relaying cost? It depends on which chains you're relaying between and what the fees are on those chains. Can be significant, but is generally a fairly low cost thing. If we look at the cost to keep, say, like Stride's IBC connection up to the Cosmos Hub for interchain security, I want to say it's on the order of like low hundreds of dollars a month. It's really not that much money for a larger project.
And that's the relaying for chain to chain, not like per validator, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So that is from Stride to the Cosmos Hub over the interchain account, over the interchain security channel. And those updates are actually decently large, so it is a kind of a higher cost relaying channel. The hub has non-trivial fees, so there's that. I will note that with the Enshrined Relayer, we have the same mechanism like we do for TIA blob, where the validator set can set up an interchain account over on the other chain, and then only have one account that all of the validators fee grant against. And then it would be effectively up to the DAO or governing body of the chain that enables that to pay for those fees. The other way that the Enshrined Relayer thing can work is if each side of the equation has the Enshrined Relayer module, and they both enable the same channel, then the validators on the Cosmos Hub take care of the messages coming from Stride over on the Cosmos Hub automatically, and the Stride validators take care of the messages coming over from the Cosmos Hub to Stride automatically. And then there's really no fees. The validators just socialize those fees amongst the set.
I think overall
that
sounds
sense?
Yeah. That overall, I think that sounds just way better. Why hasn't this been a thing? Like I hear validators like
no one's done the work.
No one's done the work.
No one's done the work. Yeah.
No, everything's been available to do where the things are coming up, but no one's put it all together yet. And so we're at that point where we're focusing on UX, we're focusing on how to build out the best products for future chains as well as current chains. And this is one of those areas where if we put all the puzzles pieces together, it works, and now we have that out.
I've also heard that like the Cosmos SDK, like there's a lot of like groundbreaking features, but there's a lot of like boring to-do list to integration stuff that like isn't getting done because it's just not as cool. Is that true? And how much I guess the word is tech debt is there in the Cosmos SDK?
Reece is laughing. What I will say is there's a tremendous amount. As somebody who was the product lead on this a long time ago, we built out an install base relatively quickly with a code base that needed quite a bit of work. And a lot of the last couple of years has been paying down that technical debt. I do want to shout out the binary team quite a bit here. I think the 50, 51, and 52 release lines that should culminate in a 1.0, which is basically the current set of releases that they're working on, pays down a substantial amount of that technical debt and leaves us with a much better code base. So that's on the Cosmos SDK side. On the IBC side, we've done quite a bit over the last few years to integrate with other networks through Composable and Avalanche Network. The work that the Polymer Labs and Union teams are doing to bring IBC over to Ethereum, that is kind of become a forcing function to pay down a lot of technical debt on the IBC side. The idea that as long as you can just plug a light client into IBC, it'll just work with any other chains. There was a lot of things in the code that kind of went against that guarantee and took a couple of years for us to work out and sufficiently generalize the code bases to be able to work with those things. A lot of that work has been done. The rest of it will get done over the next few months. I think that, Tendermint is the last, or Comet BFT is kind of the last piece of the stack that needs a significant pay down in technical debt. Some of that work is happening, but I think there needs to be a lot more done there.
Well, one thing I want to ask is like, why is that necessarily the case? Because it's not necessarily a money issue, right? Do you think that because Cosmos chains require infra and app devs at the same time for just one chain or for just one project, do you think that like brain drains?
I think
like
fundamentally what we need to do, I think that's an interesting question. I think the biggest brain drain for core devs is the fact that if you work as a core dev, you don't make a lot of money. Like, you make good money. It's not bad. But it's not like I'm going to go launch my own token kind of money. And the incentive for a very, very long time has been to go launch your own token, go launch your own project, and make a ton of money. And you can see any number of Cosmos core developers who have done this. So that market incentive has been a brain drain on core development, A. B, because there was this screaming need from application developers and a brain drain against that core development talent effectively, what was left was forced to ship features instead of paying down technical debt in many cases. And it takes, and this is any technical project where you have technical debt that you need to pay down, it takes very strong leadership to resist calls from management effectively, whatever form that may take, to be able to focus on technical debt over features, because often those refactors take a significant amount of time. They require painful migrations. They push more burden onto users. And those are tough engineering decisions to make. Those are tough product decisions to make, frankly. So, yeah, I think that there's a large number of factors that go into that.
Mm-hmm. You also worked at Tendermint before it exploded. Did you also experience that, or are you speaking from personal experience?
Yes, deeply. Yeah. I've experienced that at a large number of companies. I worked in Web2 databases for a long time. This is not me like calling somebody out. Like, if I'm going to call somebody out, I'll call them out. A, but B, like, this is just kind of an emergent factor of facet of technical startups in many, many cases. And you can see it across the industry. It is a continuum as well, because if you spend too much time paying down technical debt and working towards an ideal architecture, you end up where Polkadot is, where they've shipped all this really cool technology that doesn't really work with zero focus on users, and they don't have anyone actually using it. So there needs to be a healthy understanding of the trade-off set between shipping features and in building a maintainable system. And this is the case with any startup, and taking on actual debt as well. If you don't have enough money, you're not going to be able to keep running. And, you might need to go borrow some money to go do that. And that's taking on debt. And technical debt is exactly the same kind of trade-off. Sometimes it's necessary and good to do. And there's different phases at which it's important to sort of step back, reassess. And, I think that it's time to pay down technical debt when you can't go faster without doing that. And that's where we are as an ecosystem right now. We've needed to spend a bunch of time refactoring some of the core assumptions in the software to help hit that next 10x set of use cases out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that is fascinating. I didn't think of that. Why?
Yeah,
dealing with technical debt
most people
don't. dealing with technical debt isn't fun, right?
No.
Why do you guys? Why do you guys do that? That's my question.
I think that it's, I am I'm a practical person. I'm highly practical, and you have to look practically if we have this limited amount of time and effort and money to spend, how do we spend it to make the highest impact? And I think that if you really set down all your preconceived notions and look at things very from a strictly utilitarian and practical standpoint, there are many cases in which paying down debt is the right thing to do. And people don't like doing it. And that's why you end up seeing those things as much more valuable, because they unlock a lot more. And there's this kind of natural aversion to doing it. Features are much more glamorous. They're much more publicly visible. People want that kind of recognition. But, if you can make 10x the impact with the same amount of work by doing something that's not glamorous, I'll pick that non-glamorous thing over and over again.
And so you're talking about like the incentives, how like it's better to launch like a new token instead of like solve your technical debt.
Yeah.
So why do you choose the opposite of these like nice juicy incentives to launch your own chain, especially because like Strangelove is poised to like do pretty well in with their own chain, or do you think that's so? Like,
I mean, yeah, we could go do our own chain. Reece, do you want to go launch a blockchain?
Yeah, we have ideas. There's things that we could do. There's that are useful, like not just a chain, but like
Yeah.
actually useful things. But you have to make sure that it's really useful to the point that it's worth that risk that you're taking on, not only for yourself but also others that would be incorporating that into their protocol and their side. So there's a lot of other risk factors that you have to take into account to do something like that. Would it be profitable? Would it be amazing? Not only for us, but as well as like the entire ecosystem? Absolutely. But is it actually what we should be focused on right now? Or are there other more important things that maybe don't enrich us as much, but actually help others a ton more, and we can capture some of that value?
Yeah, and what we're trying to build is a company that's able to profit off and grow with an ecosystem, like real long-term sustainability, not just the next payday. You know, I could go out and spend all my time launching and pumping meme coins. Would I make more money doing that? Probably. Would I be able to sleep at night? No. I'm here to help like revolutionize and replace the global financial system, and I've like helped make a lot of things that have helped really push the needle on that. Particularly when it comes to ensuring Cosmos's place in that and ensuring a lasting place for a lot of the technology we've built. I find a great deal of meaning and joy in doing that, and that is what I choose to do.
yeah, shout out to profitable startups out there. Not much, not much in existence. Another thing is, what's
No.
the business model for Rollchains exactly? Because there's no token, so like, how make money?
Yeah. Yeah, we, partner with projects that are launching networks. We take all kinds of different incentive, like compensation for that. Some of that will be tokens. And we sell products too. This relayer enshrinement thing that we have is closed source right now. We'll open source it, but it'll be under a business license, and only projects that license that will be able to use it. So kind of a traditional Web 2 software company model. There's a lot of examples of very successful companies in Web 2 doing this. We think that this is some of the hard work that's been kind of ignored in Web 3 while everyone's been launching tokens.
And another thing too, like we were talking about technical debt, maintenance in Cosmos is difficult. It's going to continue to stay difficult as the stack progresses, more engineers come in. And our thing is, how can we leverage our understanding of the stack and these issues that we've discussed with this debt and help other chains to automate up into that? And so doing maintenance contracts as well, with automatically helping them upgrade from, say, SDK 47 to version 50 and handling all of that validation for them, building that out and making that so that way that their chain becomes secure and stays secure on the latest and greatest software. And so helping teams with that as well is another avenue.
And so, has there been anyone that has used Rollchains or any of its features?
Yeah,
Can you list them?
we got a number of folks. So there's a ton of folks on Telegram or on Twitter. You can see who've either adopted Tia Blob or some of our other modules, or are choosing to integrate with Spawn to help offer their products to a broader set of Cosmos users. There's like, I don't know, we've done one or two a week for a few months at this point. So just go check that out. Bigger ones, we're partnered with the Cosmos Hub to help onboarding for new consumer chains. We're partnered with Ethos to help onboarding for new AVSs. We're partnered with Celestia to help bring people on via Tia Blob. So some of the major ecosystems bringing in new Cosmos chains and applications, like we're right there at the tip of the spear helping out. In terms of Spawn adoption, we have a number of projects in Stealth that are using Spawn to head their chain. We also have other projects that have used Spawn to help with their chain development as well. Reece, there are some folks that jump to mind for you.
Yeah, so the first production network that is currently live is Loopchain. They're migrating from Juno to their own proof of authority network. They use Spawn, integrated that up, and launched extremely quickly, within under a week. From idea phase to like launch, ready to go. They're now working on their contracts and things like that. Another chain is Manifest. This is a private proof of authority network, and they're currently in testnet phase. This is kind of like a DAO, but centralized around a Web2 business where they want to bring governance onto their network. And so they're really focused on that and building out a custom module on top of that. But that's been used with Spawn. I know that the Burnt team has worked on a private testnet. They built up with Spawn. They're working on migrating their current, I believe it's currently a live mainnet, using the Spawn features and migrating those over into there. And so those are just the top ones that come to mind, but there's a lot of other smaller projects as well as just random people that are coming into Cosmos for the first time. They've seen Spawn, they're now using it and able to build up a chain, and they've never been able to do that before, and asking good questions within the Cosmos Hub Discord. So that's been really great to see. Not only are we seeing current projects using it that previously have not been able to use tooling in Cosmos, being able to now use that, but also new members into the Cosmos and learning to build up chains and being able to experience that for themselves.
And so Spawn is what is it exactly? It's like, what was that old command line to spawn Cosmos chains? What was it called again?
Ignite CLI, which was previously called Starport. That was, yes.
Yeah.
So that is a similar idea to Spawn, where you're able to build up that new chain. Spawn also has where you can spawn new modules, so it'll just build up a module for you, whether that be a normal module with a base template, like an ORM, etc., or IBC middlewares or modules as well, so that way that you have that base template. What we provide on top of that is selecting what modules you want, which ones you don't, having the validation and testing, not only with standard unit tests, which are just quick go tests. They're kind of like mocking out a production system, but actually running those production systems in a private network within GitHub and having all of that connect together. So we provide not just the base experience, but everything up the stack to verify that what you've built and have created actually really does work.
And so with Starport, you would have to go into terminal and then type in, was it CLI Starport? And then it would just deploy a boilerplate Cosmos chain. And so with Spawn, is there like a little website where I just like click the modules I want, or how
there is not currently a website. This would be super easy to do, where we could generate the chain on like our own server and then send you a zip file. But for most developers that we are targeting, they're at least somewhat familiar with the CLI, and we've made it as simple as possible to get this started. All it requires is Docker. If you have Docker and Go installed, you're good, which a majority of developers have. If you don't have it, we have that set up. It works for Linux, Windows, and Mac OS, which most other networks don't support. Some of the ARM-based systems, as well as no one really touches Windows. We need to support the entire market. So we have that. It's, again, going to be 2 to 3 lines of code that you copy paste into your terminal. It installs Spawn for you. You type Spawn new and then the name of your project, and then you go through our little like UI through the CLI. So it's kind of like a website, but for developers, and you just select, I want this one, great, I want this one, and you press done, generates, and it says, hey, if you want to start this up, run make testnet. It'll automatically build all of your stuff for you. It'll start up a local testnet network with all of your configuration values set, and you're just ready to go to begin building. So we've made it super, super simple. There's a couple of small things that we could even reduce from there, but it's in a really good spot relative to other chains as well as standard Cosmos tooling currently.
One thing I would say about Ignite, it was a good tool. A lot of people have used it over the years, but I don't know a single project that after scaffolding out their chain, they used Ignite for anything substantial. Good dev tooling provides value throughout the full life cycle of chains. Starport, which is what Ignite used to be called, they were going to build this whole network where you did validator matching, and it was kind of like what Saga ended up becoming, basically, and they were bending the tool for a very long time towards this value capture by an individual network. So the features that they were adding were not features for developers. They were not building for this open use case where anyone can go build a chain and then trying to figure out how to add value on top of that. It was trying to capture value and build one of these kind of roll-up as a service type things. I think that was a huge mistake, A. B, it left a tool that people don't use. And the needs of Cosmos developers are very different than what is envisioned by Ignite. And that's why we've decided to build a new.
Yeah, but we do support Ignite within Rollchains. So in the event that you also want to use Ignite for whatever reason, their module generation is really good. Ours is not as complex because we want to give you the base template. But if you want to use that, you can select that when you build up your new chain, select use Ignite CLI, and then it's automatically set up for you to be able to support that as well.
Nice. Also, one little question. Do you guys charge like a percentage fee? Like, I know Arbitrum charges like 10% to deploy an L3 or something like that. Do you guys do any of that stuff with Rollchains?
No.
Okay. And then wasn't there another one like Theyre? It was by Theyre, like before Do Kwon went to prison, he like announced this like launch.
That was an Ignite CLI fork. Yes.
Yeah. That was just like wasn't good at all.
Well, it's the same thing. It's the same problems that Ignite had as well as still currently has. So it was just a rebrand. I think it tweaked some of the things that fixed a couple of the issues Ignite had, but it's still not. We need a new developer experience, and that's what Spawn brings to the table versus the previous status quo.
Yeah, and just as like, what are some of the new developer experience pieces? One of the hardest problems in Cosmos for a long time has been end-to-end testing and be able to do complex IBC flows that hit a large number of different chains. And we build that natively into Spawn and help give you examples when you get started. And if you do something like, say, use Tia blob, there's a full end-to-end test case that shows that whole thing working on your code base out of the box. And we build those for all of the other modules that you add too, so that you have assurance that the things that you've imported work as you think they do, even on a going forward basis. And that runs on every commit. And it's those kinds of things that end up saving developers a massive amount of time. You see things like failed upgrades and rollbacks and chain halts and things like that. And I've been in this ecosystem for a while. I understand what the source of the issues are that creates things when those things happen. And a lot of it is missing integration testing, lack of ability to spin up full copies of the system and be able to see what the behavior is the way you think it's supposed to be. And like, those are the things we build in at the base level to help you avoid taking on technical debt and doing things that end up taking a ton of developer time.
I think another question. I just like love talking about the Cosmos SDK. Like, no one really gets into like the core SDK. Why hasn't Cosmos Hub upgraded to 5. Or was it 50 or 5.0?
50.
Why haven't they upgraded?
Reece, do you want to take the upgrade issue?
Yes. So I have run multiple upgrades. I've ran 13 upgrades for Juno at my time there. It's a large undertaking to upgrade a single SDK version, let alone multiple. So the SDK for a while was on 45. This has tons of technical debt. And the binary team came through and fixed a lot of the issues, which spawned up some new issues, but at the same time was a much better version that's getting closer to a V1 release versus a 0.5. So the Cosmos Hub, I think they spent like 6+ months upgrading with multiple engineers to get from 45 to 47. They've got to validate it. They have to upgrade every single upstream module. So you can't just upgrade your module, like your chain. You have to go to every single If you have IBC rate limit, you have to go make sure that their team also upgrades it. Oh, they're not doing that. We have to do that. Okay, we come back. Oh, is packet forward middleware updated from the Strangelove team? Okay, they have. Great, we can just import that to the new version. Oh, IBC Go isn't upgraded. And so you do that for every single module, Cosmos, everything. So you have this waterfall effect of no modules have updated to 46. Oh, no one was upgrading to 46. So we pretty much skipped that as an ecosystem. So now it's time for 47. So now you have 2 SDK upgrades to upgrade on your own chain. And you have to go do that to every single module, which also has their own sim apps. So you're talking about like 12 chains you have to have upgraded before you can even start to validate that everything is working properly. You try to go run it on testnet, it fails. You forgot this other edge case with some parameter you have to set. Oh, you didn't set that because you weren't using interchain test. Okay, you come back. And so it's just constant like that. And then once you're done, like your devs are like, okay, we've not actually built a feature in 6+ months now. We probably need to focus on that. And now version 50 is out. And it's like, well, we can't really put those resources there because we just finished this, and like now it's end of life already because it took us so long to upgrade.
Yeah.
So that is the issue, and every chain has to do that. We're working to help solve that at Rollchains with automatically doing an entire upgrade, doing like find and replaces and moving things out and giving you notifications on that. So we want to help leverage this, but it is a massive undertaking for especially teams of one, where like it's almost like nearly impossible to ship a feature while you're also doing that. It's extremely scary. Yeah. It's headache.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
So, yeah.
And so the Cosmos Hub.
Yeah, and when you have a tool that sort of like encodes all those versions in one thing and can help you do those upgrades automatically, that's how we solve these versioning issues. A. B, bringing the core stack up to a 1.0. This is like the nerdiest issue in existence, but there's a lot of reasons in the Go language why when you use a full number version number, it makes it much easier to deal with dependencies. The Cosmos SDK is still on v.o. as is Tendermint. They're both coming into 1.0 this year. That will make a huge difference. Automation's the other thing. So, yeah.
Okay, before we wrap this up, so the Cosmos SDK is barely at 4.47, and it's going to it hasn't yet gone to 50. Is that?
So the SDK itself has. The issue is that chains lag so much in terms of incorporating the new features because, one, development time, funding, do we have any features that we actually need from this yet? So a lot of chains are still on 45. This is end of life as of a couple of months ago. So not only do they have to upgrade to 47, which can be done in a single upgrade, Juno, Stargaze, the Cosmos Hub, multiple have done this in one hop, but now they would also have to then get up to that and then upgrade to V50. By the time they get up to 50, 50.2 could be out. And so you're multiple versions behind, and you really have to stay on top of it and have a top tier dev team with a lot of time to focus on stuff that really shouldn't have to matter, but really does to keep you on top of security updates and other features that you may want to have.
Oh, wow. I now get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Is there anything else y'all want to talk about?
Yeah.
Not sure we're short on time or anything else.
Anytime I get to 10 minutes describing and discussing technical debt and the trade-offs, I'm very happy. So thank you.
Okay.
Because, I mean, this is like when people are like, AI is going to replace software engineering, this is where I'm like, you guys have no fucking clue what software engineering actually is. Like, real software engineering is managing between complex trade-offs, thinking deeply about how long things are going to take into the future, and trying to chart the correct course as an organization in the present day based on a bunch of like very like hard to quantify things. And like that is not something that an AI can or will replace. Will an AI make writing individual pieces of code much easier? Yeah. Will an AI make maintaining systems in making informed decisions about complex trade-offs easier? Probably not for a while. Anyway.
That was great. Another thing is that this work is pretty boring, right? You're just like going into these modules, swapping out these names, swapping out these variables.
We're lazy. Yeah, we're boring. Yeah.
It's extremely boring. It is like lower than junior level work, and we're having senior level engineers have difficulty doing this because it's so complex with all these little tiny tedious things and setting values. Yeah, it's boring.
And so you're spending like multiple high 6-figure senior engineers to like for 6 months,
over a course of months,
doing the most
every
6 months.
Cosmos team,
every Cosmos team does this. Yeah,
doing the most like boring,
every single one of them,
painstaking Control F. And then you Control C, and then you scroll down and you replace all of them.
Wrong. Yes, and then there's a value that you need to set with one line somewhere in between another two lines, and if you don't set it there exactly, everything crashes and it will just say panic, nil point or like pointer not found,
nil pointer dereference, yeah,
and then there's no way to debug it, and you just have to like manually go find it, and it takes 8+ hours, and you find that you had it one line lower than you were supposed to. Like that is the level, and every team has to do this.
Or maybe you don't have some magic statement in your Go mod that's a little replace to some specific commit for some random library, and you spend 4+ hours like trying to go find that and getting the thing to compile. One of my engineers, this happened to them very recently. Mark was trying to work on server v2 stuff, and he spent an entire day working on a Go mod replace that Freddie gave him. And this is like it's unglamorous stuff, but it is the thing. Like when I'm talking about like 10x, like huge leverage ways to spend time, like you can easily see how this is a massive leverage point for the whole ecosystem. And if we can create that much value, I'm sure we can capture enough of it to make a sustainable business. And that's kind of the core idea.
Anyways, I think that's a wrap up. I had a blast. I honestly, like, I get Rollchains now. I get it.
Yeah. Cool. Well,
Glad
awesome, Diego. Anyway, thanks a lot for the time.
Is there anything you want to...
Our best interview on this so far, too.
Okay. Is there anything you guys want to plug or talk about at the end?
Yo, if you need enshrined relayers, hit us up. We got you. We'll save you all kinds of time.
And if you're building a new chain, use Spawn. It's free to use. It's open source. Go try it.
Give it a go.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching.